Okay, perfect. Let's get started, everyone. Hello. Thank you so much for attending our Sit Down with Ford Hiring Managers event. My name is Sarah, and I am so excited to be your host today. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm an Associate University Relations Specialist here at Ford, part of the University Relations Talent Acquisition team. I hope you all are having a great day so far and a wonderful 2022. I can't believe April is already here tomorrow. This year seems to be going by incredibly fast. We want to welcome you to our first spring event of the year, and I'm so excited that this day is finally upon us. Today, our team will be discussing and providing an insider look at interview and resume tips and tricks, Ford's culture, the application process, and more. Thank you all so much for joining the call, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join the event. Before we jump into meeting our wonderful panelists, I'd like to talk to you about Ford. First and foremost, Ford is a family company, one that spans the globe and has shared ideals. We value service to each other and the world as much as to our customers. Generations have made their memories with us and included us in their hopes and dreams. And as a family company, we are evolving to focus on services, experiences, and software, as well as vehicles. Speaking of evolving and growing, we always have new and exciting career opportunities here to join the Ford family, and you can view those at careers.ford.com. That's careers.ford.com. Now let's get to know our three amazing panelists that will be answering your questions today. I would love to have them introduce themselves so we can learn a little bit more about all of them. So let's start with Dennis, since he is in my top box.
Good morning, good afternoon. Dennis Murray. I'm the Director of Enterprise Connectivity's talent development organization. That includes developing and attracting talent into our software teams. Nice to see you all.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dennis. We will drop down to Chris.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Billman, and I'm a chief engineer here at Ford. I get to work with a large group of super smart and creative people who develop driver assist features for our customers. And I'm thrilled to be with everyone here today. Thanks.
We're so happy to have you here, Chris. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Kim.
Good afternoon. My name is Kim Banjel. I work in talent for Ford Credit. So my responsibilities include recruitment, onboarding, our internship program, as well as our early career program. It's called FCDP program. So happy to be here.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. We have some really great questions to get through today. And if you have any questions throughout the event, please pop those in the chat feature and we will try to get to them if we have additional time towards the end. And we hope you walk away with a clear understanding of what our teams are looking for in candidates here at Ford. So let's dive into it. Our first question: what are a few things that stand out to you when reviewing students' resumes? Kim, would you like to start us off with that question?
Sure, Sarah, thank you. So, a few things, obviously, skills and abilities, right, that apply to the position that you're applying for, degree, perhaps, if that's a specific requirement to the position that you're applying for. So, of course, some of those are given. I'd also add, and perhaps Dennis and Chris would agree, I'd add just some of those extracurricular. Projects and things that sometimes the students are working on, something that's going to show your leadership capabilities, your ability to be a team player and collaborate, your ability to lead an effort or an event. So I think some of those things are equally as important as the degree and or skills or job description or background as well.
Absolutely. The resume is your foot in the door, so you want to make that great impression. Dennis or Chris, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, echoing on what Kim said, the particular thing I look for are project-based learning experiences, be that school projects, community projects, whatever that you've been able to demonstrate how you've worked well together, how you've led, how you've come up with ideas, and things like that. Whatever kind of factual skills that you've been able to develop and show how you've applied them goes a long way.
Perfect.
Yeah, there's not a lot I can add, but I will maybe just give one tip. If you're listing things like internships on your resume, make sure you list like what you did in the internship, what you contributed to the role, what you learned in the role.
Yeah.
In addition to all the things that Kim and Dennis mentioned, demonstrated skills and things that you've learned and how you contributed to the items on your resume are really helpful for us.
Absolutely. It'll definitely make your resume and yourself stand out and be a dynamic candidate as well. Perfect. Well, what is one piece of advice you want students to know before entering a final round interview? Chris, we can start with you with that question.
Sure. Thanks, Sarah. I think the first thing is stay calm. It's okay. You're talking to friends. It's not like it's an inquisition. So take a deep breath at the beginning and it'll be okay. But the main thing for me is what really stands out is when it's clear that candidates are listening to the questions and answering them completely. Sometimes you'll get multi-part questions, and it's really great if you can demonstrate that you've really understood the question and you're answering each sort of aspect of multi-part questions in particular. And then the only other thing that I'll offer for this one is don't be afraid to ask clarifying questions of the interview panel. If something is unclear about the question, don't hesitate to sort of ask, what did you mean by the thing that you just said? That's perfectly fine, and we're here to help get through it together.
Perfect. Great. Any lasting thoughts from Kim or Dennis?
Yeah, I think it's really important to do your research on the company so that you can actually have a conversation about what's important to them, right? Knowing little bits about the company, whatever was in the news recently, things you've heard, and just being able to have a conversation about those things and asking good follow-up questions, right? It really shows that you did your homework on the company, that you're interested in the position, that you took enough time to go look it up and come up with some good questions. And then, have your objectives in mind. Know what you want to give to the company and know what you want to get from the company, right? How you want your career to go. I think those are really key things that you should really show that you're prepared, we're ready to go.
Absolutely, that's great. And I think following those social channels, as you mentioned, doing your research, I've had candidates on my phone screens reference something they've seen on LinkedIn or on the Facebook page, or if they saw it on Instagram. And that's such a quick way to share information too. So definitely a great way to get forward out there and get them to really understand what our message is and what we are looking for too. Did you have anything to add, Kim?
I don't believe so. I don't think I could have said it better.
Perfect. Well, our next question is stemming off of interviews. And do you have any advice on what students can do in an interview to stand out? And has a student done anything impressive in an interview so far that you remember to this day? Kim, we can start with you because
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. I think a lot of the things that we just listed on the prior question would still apply here in terms of how to stand out. Certainly relaxing, taking a deep breath so that you are bringing your best self forward in the interview. Sometimes when your nerves get in the way, it just can make for a not great experience. So of course, relax. Show all the preparation and research that I'm sure you've already done. Ask those good follow-up questions. Use some sort of technique, STAR technique, or some sort of method to answer the questions, right? And have fun. I mean, I think one thing that we have to keep in mind is we're interviewing these students, but they're also interviewing us too. So keep that in mind too, right? When you're asking those questions at the end. And like Dennis mentioned, what do you want from the company? It's not just about what we're getting from you, the candidate. So
absolutely. That's perfect. And it's great insight there too. I wish I knew that when I was interviewing at a younger age. So that's perfect. Dennis or Chris, do you have anything to add to Kim's answer?
Yeah, I think it's really important for the candidates to be able to relax and tell their story. Their story is the whole reason for the meeting, for the whole reason for the being there. It's so that we can understand how they think, how they evaluate decisions, how they take risks, what their backgrounds are, what your experiences are, so that we can assess how well you think and how well you react to the environment that we're proposing to put you into. What is your story? We need to hear it.
Yes. Yes, bringing your full self.
Exactly.
Especially with the full Ford family. That's very important to us. So perfect. Thank you. Well, with the next question for all of you. So how can students stay competitive in this industry on the technical and non-technical side of things? Chris, we can start with you and then we'll pass the question around.
Sure. Yeah, the first thing that jumps to mind is don't stop learning. You're going to come out of a college with a degree or two or three, and that's not the end of your learning experience as you progress through your career and through your life. Take advantage of all of the company offers in terms of learning opportunities, and we offer a lot of different ways to enhance your skill set. And don't expect to stop learning when you start your career. It's really just the beginning in many ways. The other comments I'd make are don't be afraid to reach out for a mentor. Seek someone who can provide advice to you about how you can navigate through the career that you want and achieve the things that you want. Building a network and seeking a mentor is really helpful in terms of staying competitive in the industry and growing your career within Ford.
That's great. Thank you.
I think,
Dennis?
yeah, so continuous learning is really hard to do. I mean, it's something that you have to take the time for. And it's not a question of having the time, it's a question of taking the time. Go sharpen your tools.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your tools sharp. Even if it's just following a podcast of a thought leader in your particular discipline, computer science or agile or Java, right? And, listening to it on your run or on your drive into work. And understand how you fit in the world, right? What is your particular technology? How does that impact people and the world around you?
Mm-hmm.
And think deeply about that type of thing, and it will go a long way to spark your curiosity and help you drive and continuously learn, because continuous learning is key.
Absolutely, staying abreast on those, whether they be software or different topics that are coming up. Everything is consistently changing, especially in that tech industry too. So keeping those skills sharp. Great. Kim, did you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think I would agree. Definitely upskilling, keep your tools sharp, continuous learning, and just keeping your pulse on things that are going on within that industry or area of interest for you. So if that's listening to a podcast, reading a magazine, just kind of keeping your finger on the pulse,
Mm-hmm.
and the upskilling, as Dennis and Chris mentioned. So I think I'd agree.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We did have a question come up in the chat, so I did want to interrupt the list of questions that we had real quickly because, Kim, you mentioned the STAR methodology when interviewing. And what is an effective way of using the STAR methodology while answering interview questions?
Yep. So a little recap, Star, for those who may not know, testing myself, right? The STAR method, the acronym stands for the situation, the task, the action, and the result. So that's what STAR stands for. And so how you would go about using that when you're asked a question during an interview, which most of the time the interview questions are going to be behavioral based. So tell me about a time you did this, or give me an example where you did that. And if you're faced with that question, the STAR method works perfectly, where you explain the scenario, right? It's all about telling your story. Explain the scenario or situation, talk about the task that you had to complete. So what was the actionable that came from the scenario? What happened? What's the action? And then really most importantly, the results. What did it work? Did it not work? Did you save the company $1 billion? Right? What was the result from all those things that you did? Hopefully that provided a little bit more clarity.
Absolutely. And even I remember when I was going to school, our professors would say, practice those responses, have those stories ready. You want to be confident going into those interviews and practicing that methodology so that you feel comfortable. If you were thrown a random question that you didn't practice for, you are able to come up with those responses. And really being able to practice out loud, whether that be someone in your family or friends or mentor, as Chris mentioned, getting a mentor while you're at work because you want to get that drive to where you want to go. That's definitely very important to the STAR methodology as well. Thank you so much, Kim, for answering that for us. Great.
I
Well,
feel like I was in the hot seat. That was an interview question back to me. Nice. Thanks, Sarah.
yes.
And thank you to whoever asked the question.
Absolutely perfect. Our next question, what qualities are you looking for specifically in a candidate to join your team? Dennis, we can throw this one over to you to start us off.
I I would start with saying that really looking for smart people who can collaborate with other smart people, right? There's a power of networking, and it's not just two times the number of people. It's really exponential when you get smart people in the room that actually can listen and communicate well together. Um, on the flip side of that, you need to have the presence of yourself and self-awareness to know that you're not that smart. And you need to continue you need to drive in the drive to grow. So it's that balance between awareness and self-assuredness and being smart enough to challenge other people and to be open enough to be challenged so that you can grow with them.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dennis. Chris, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, maybe I'll just offer one comment. I'm in the engineering function. I work with a lot of scientists and researchers and engineers, and it goes without saying that we're looking for people with good technical skills. That's kind of the baseline expectation. But what some people don't realize is how important communication skills are for even people in technical roles. No matter what it is your job is, you're going to have to explain your work to others at some point in time. And being able to do that clearly, succinctly, being able to distill deeply technical things to the level of information that other people will understand, those kinds of communication skills are really important, even for technical roles. And that's something that is a real plus when we see that in candidates.
Absolutely. Communication is key. Being able to explain something technical and complex to someone who may not be technically versed is definitely very important. And there always are issues when there's that lack of communication. So very important there. Kim, what qualities are you specifically looking for in your team?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with what Dennis and Chris have said so far. I'd also add maybe a little bit of a disruptor, right? Or someone who like thinks outside the box, someone who's comfortable in the white space or gray space. A candidate who has the customer in mind, so customer focused, and just who could really play in the white space a little bit. So a little bit of disruption, I think, is also helpful in candidates.
Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you all for the insight there. And then stemming into what qualities you're looking for in a candidate, can you describe the culture of your team? Chris, we can start with you on that one.
Sure. Yeah. We strive to be very collaborative. We strive to support each other as a true team in every sense of that word. Um, we have a lot of very intelligent people, so we have a deep respect for technical excellence. We're also very customer focused, not just in my area, but in all areas of Ford. We do what we do for our customers at the end. And so we have to make sure that we can connect our daily work with something that a customer wants or would appreciate or will love. And those kinds of things are the undercurrent for the cultures within my team and probably most teams within Ford.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Dennis, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think where we're at in software, the parts of the software that we work on, we do a lot of collaborative software, extreme programming, paired software, even mob programming at times. And we really, really need to struggle really need to strive for a culture of belonging and a culture of learning. I think that those two things will help us all kind of create some really good software. If you know you belong and you know you're continuing to learn, everything's possible at that point.
Thank you. And Kim, can you describe the culture on your team?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with Dennis and Chris again for sure. The culture of belonging, keeping our customers in the forefront, all of that is extremely important, and it really creates a great culture for us, Ford Credit and Ford. One of the things too that I'll share specifically for Ford Credit, and with the recent announcement of the various divisions for Ford, the cool thing, Ford Credit being one of those, of course, is we all really have a competitive edge. I think there's a sense of autonomy. We're breaking the bureaucracy. We're moving fast, and can kind of sometimes feel like we're working like our own kind of startup. Right. Which is really exciting. And I think sometimes that's why working in that white space and gray space can really be important for our candidates. But for sure, the spirit of belonging, caring for each other, treating our customers like family is all very present on the Ford Credit side as well as Ford.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you all so much. You all had great responses to that question. Our next question is regarding the remote environment. Now that we've been working remotely for the last 2 years, what are some benefits you've noticed since your team started working virtually? Dennis, we'll start with you on that one.
So our area is connected vehicles. So we manage all of the software that goes in and out of the vehicle, getting data in and out of the vehicle. And you would think that, with COVID and everybody working from home, there'd be a really negative impact on the car companies, but it was really a positive impact for us because we learned a few things. One of which, you can write software from just about anywhere, right? And that opens up a whole new lifestyle for our employees, right? Work from anywhere. Flip side of that is, not everybody has these nice spacious living rooms like that we all have here, right? That we've got on all our backgrounds. So we are recognizing that, now that next month we are able to go back into the office sometime when we need to have a space where, the kids aren't chopping through, the dog isn't barking, and we need a place to focus, or we can come home and lock ourselves in the room and focus there. So I think one of the things is that the flexibility and the importance of having a connected experience, an always on experience, even when you're driving your car.
Perfect. Thank you. Chris, what are the benefits you've noticed?
I think one of the ones that comes up often is not many people miss the commute into work. That one's, I get an hour back every day that I don't have to drive back and forth to work, and most people enjoy that time that they get back. But the other thing that's become really clear is we can still be very productive in this environment. You've demonstrated that as a company. Dennis talked about software skills. We have a number of jobs within the company that can be done remotely, and we've demonstrated that that's definitely doable. And the other one similar to that is we've learned pretty clearly that not everyone prefers the same type of working style. Some people really thrive in being fully remote and writing software from a beach in Florida. Other people really thrive on interacting with other people in person in the office. And then there are lots of people who love the ability to do either or depending on the day-to-day needs of their job. And so, in the spirit of equity and inclusion, we're accommodating all of those types of working preferences as best we can. And we're able to deliver the business and succeed as a company in this framework of the pandemic over the last couple of years. And, we're going to move past it in a hybrid work environment largely as a company. And we've learned from the last 2 years and had some new best practices as a result, which has been great.
Absolutely. I wish I was working in Florida on the beach, but especially with the Michigan weather, it's snowy, then it's windy, and then all of a sudden it's 60 degrees. You just never know what day you're going to get here. But yes, absolutely. It's definitely opened up different areas for us to work, and we all have different learning styles, different working styles. So it's great. It's a I'll say the only good thing that's come out of having COVID here is that we're able to really realize what we didn't see before. Definitely very eye-opening. Kim, did you have anything to add with the benefits on your team that you've seen?
Yeah, a couple of things. And I think just to kind of expand, I think it just kind of makes us all more human a little bit, right? I forget Dennis or Chris who mentioned it, but I've been on meetings and calls where maybe someone's dog or cat is going across the camera or whatever, and it's okay. Like it's a life that
Right.
happens. And so I think just it makes us a little bit more human and a little bit more connected to each other as coworkers and, as a team, which I think ultimately could affect our productivity as we work together to do all the great things that we're doing at Ford and Ford Credit. So that I've really enjoyed. I think too, from a recruitment perspective, obviously it's lended us opportunities like this today where we could talk to hundreds of people from the comfort of our cool living rooms here and be able to tap into that talent to bring that talent to the company. And then lastly, I think I'll say for credit, in my opinion, it really shared and showed me how, we can solve problems with like a how might we attitude. On the credit side, we had several business centers, right, where folks would take the calls that are related to our business, anywhere from dealers paying a bill, collection, right, the whole run of the business. But how might we still be productive and get that done at home? And guess what? We could still do it. So just really cool the innovation and collaboration that has come out of this pandemic and just allowed us to just kind of be more human and empathetic and just kind of care for each other and just all work together towards that goal.
Absolutely, that was great. And you stole the words right out of my mouth when you said empathy, especially being
Yeah,
human. We all have to remember that at the end of the day. And as you mentioned, dogs or cats or kids
kids
walking
are.
by, yes, especially, and they're natural disruptions that happen in our lives. And even if it wasn't in a brick and mortar building, they still happen. So I think it's great just to see that realistic side to who we all are. And I do agree with the benefit of not having that commute in the morning and in the evening when you're stuck with everybody else, even though that is communal as well. But great. Yeah, I think that working in the remote environment has presented so many different benefits, as I mentioned earlier, that we didn't see before. So definitely great insight there for all of us and all companies out there. Thank you. And working in the remote environment, our next question is about advice of networking and connecting with team members or individuals who aren't on your team and how we would go about that. Chris, would you like to start us off with that question?
Sure. Yeah, I'll try. It's a challenge for sure. When, back before the pandemic, we were in the office every day and we had water cooler conversations and we just had natural opportunities to get to know each other in work and outside of work. And it is more challenging. I'll be the first to acknowledge to build a network in a remote environment. But I think it's still very possible. And one of the key things for me, at least, that's been helpful for me is to proactively reach out. When I'm in a new role or working with a new colleague, I'll often just schedule a half an hour, a 15-minute chat with those people or that person. And just having a getting to know you conversation is really important. Get outside of meetings that you'll interact with naturally. Just get into a one-on-one conversation and get to know people in a more direct one-on-one way. That's been really helpful, even in the remote pandemic environment, to build networks.
Perfect. Thank you. Dennis?
Yeah, I think Chris said it. It really takes a conscious effort to build relationships and then to maintain those relationships.
Mhm.
And especially coming in new to a company or new to a new organization or new to a new department, even, um, look for an ally. I think Chris mentioned it earlier. Ask for help, find a mentor, find a buddy. Won't you be my neighbor kind of a thing. After a meeting, if somebody, had one of those interruptions where the kids walk through or the dog walked through and, you call them up, call them back and say, hey, put your dog back on camera. I'm really into dogs or I really like cats, right? make that personal connection. And then use the tools that are available, Slack, Teams, texts. Sometimes it's just, you know what, I'm going to send Kim a note, say good morning. That's it. And that goes a long way to say, oh yeah, he's all right. And then you kind of build that relationship and maintain it over time that way.
Absolutely. Perfect. Kim, did you have anything to add?
I think they both nailed it. The only thing I would add, and it's specifically related to like company groups. And so these groups can exist on campuses too. But I would say, get involved. I think Dennis or Chris mentioned like mentors or buddies. We do have mentor circles and buddy program
Right.
at Ford Credit. We have employee resource groups with the company. So you can align and connect with individuals like you that you feel comfortable with. So reach out and engage and make those connections. But I think ultimately, the advice would be, how do you connect in a remote environment? It's very similar to being in person. You start by saying hello or introduce yourself, and it's even easier to do because it's remote. You just use those tools, send a quick note or hop on camera quickly. So
Absolutely. And especially sending that quick note virtually, you may have less nerves than, oh, I'm going to walk up to Kim in the office today. I'm going to introduce myself. It kind of takes those nerves away and it makes it a little bit more natural sometimes. But definitely all great advice. And especially, I am newer to Ford as well. I've been here for a month and a half now. So hearing this and how I can do an extra step to reach out and get to know certain individuals, and joining those employee resource groups is huge too, because they have those events to connect with one another. And as Dennis mentioned, making that connection, if you like cats or dogs, or if you see a cool poster in their background, you're like, hey, that's a Star Wars poster. I love Star Wars, whatever it is, because that little personal detail will also make that memory. And you can say, oh, I remember Dennis, he is a golden retriever. Not too sure if you do, but anyway, you can make those types of personal connections, which goes a long way, and it adds to being human in this environment, and not only just a professional connection, but also a personal connection to other individuals as well. So thank you for that.
It's like
And then
Chris's guitar that keeps popping up there, but leaning up against the chair every once in a while.
I love when that happens, when you have your background up and you just see something come in, whether it be your chair or guitar or anything. So I haven't seen it yet, so now I definitely want to look out for that. Trying to
I'll
make
make it happen. I'll move around and see what happens.
Yeah.
and then
Our
you have
next-
to play us a song, Chris.
Yes.
You really don't want that.
That'll be our closing. Chris will be performing a song for all of us, for
I
hundreds
love
of
it.
us here. Perfect. Well, our next question, what advice would you give to a young professional just starting out in their careers that you wish you would have received? And Kim, I'll throw this over to you to get us started.
Thank you, Sarah. I love this question. It's actually something that um, I wish I would have been told earlier on, and I even sometimes have to remember this now. And that advice would be to be fearless within reason, all right? Be fearless. Fail fast. If you have an idea, if you speak up, do it, try it. Like the old saying, ask for forgiveness as opposed to permission, right? So do it. And the thing that I love about our company is that type of behavior is really supported by most of your managers, right? If you have an idea, you have a thought, bring it forward, do it. And if it doesn't work, we'll talk about it. We'll have a fail party, right? And move on to the next idea. And so that's something that I think is really key. Oftentimes, when you're starting your career, or even sometimes for me, you're so nervous. And sometimes you kind of paralyze yourself and you don't do anything just because you're nervous. You don't want to mess up or whatever. But just I'd say be fearless. And if you fail fast and move on to the next thing. Learn from
Mhm.
whatever happened and move on to the next thing.
Absolutely. Don't let it hold you back, being able to have
Correct.
that fearlessness. Yeah. Perfect. And having that accountability that goes along with bouncing
Correct.
back with your team.
Yeah.
Perfect. Dennis, what would you add there?
Yeah, no, I had the same thing. Don't be afraid to fail, but
Mhm.
always make sure you learned from failure and that you can take the time and reflect and say, "Hmm, I'm going to do it differently next time.
Yeah.
Learn how to adapt and overcome." Um, failures cost, and when I look at it from a leader's perspective, I just invested in somebody that failed because that failure cost the company something. So
Mhm.
I invested that in their training. I'm not going to fire them now that I've invested in them. Right? They learned something
Mhm.
really important from that. So don't be afraid to fail.
Absolutely perfect. Thank you, Dennis. And Chris, what piece of advice do you wish you would have been given as a young professional?
Yeah, I'll maybe offer two. And the first one makes me feel old, and that is start saving for retirement on your first day with a company. It seems like a super trite thing to say, but it's so important because your career goes so fast.
Mhm.
It's advice you're going to hear from many, many people, but it's really true.
Yeah.
Start saving on day one. But beyond that, I'd offer we want you to be your true self in Ford. We value all kinds of different people, and you're going to find allies and supporters for whatever your true self is. If that means you wear formal business attire at work, that's great. If that means you come in with casual clothing or blue glasses like Kim wears, that's fantastic too. We want you all to be your true self, and we really value that in Ford. And that's super important to realize coming into a big company like ours. We're going to find a place where you feel like you belong, and we
Mhm.
value your true self.
Absolutely. I love all of your
Perfect.
responses, especially the 401k. I definitely think that should be taught a lot earlier. My parents have always stressed it, and I don't think you realize the magnitude of what a 401k can hold. So that's very important, as along with all the rest of your advice as well. I am still a little young in my career, but I wish, like my first job, my internship, I had these words of advice because definitely the failing and trying to be a perfectionist, it always comes into play, but being able to pick yourself back up and learn from those mistakes and being able to talk to your team, mentor, your people leader, whoever it may be, to have that feedback moment because it is critical to learn as well. We don't always have it, no matter what age we all are. No one is perfect in that very moment. So I think that's amazing that you all have provided that insight. So thank you so much. We do have time to answer a couple of questions that came into the chat. One that I thought was great is how have successful interviewees at Ford answered the question, tell me about yourself in the past? And what does Ford specifically look for in this question? Chris, would you like to answer that one for us?
Sure. Yeah, and I don't know that I'm comfortable speaking on behalf of Ford as a whole, but I can tell you, um, what has resonated with me, and the answer really is there's no answer. We want, at least I want you as an interviewer to tell me about yourself, and that could mean what you value above and beyond everything else in terms of your family, or how you see yourself in terms of a college graduate, or what your passion is inside or outside of work. When I interview people, there's no specific things I'm looking for. I'm really just looking to hear about you and what you value most about yourself.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. Dennis or Kim, do you have
I,
anything to add to that question?
I totally echo that. There is no right answer. We are creating a culture of belonging, and we want to know about you. This is your turn to your point in time to tell us a story.
Mhm.
Tell us a story about you. Right? You are the most important person in your life. Um, we want to hear about you, right? And that's really it. It's really just relax and tell us about you. If you're vulnerable, if you're open and honest, it comes out,
Mhm.
right? It'll come out in the story.
Absolutely. Kim, did you have anything to add?
I agree. I just agree with what Dennis and Chris said. There is no right answer for that question, and it is simply just tell us about yourself, tell us a story. It's a process of getting to know you, just like you're trying to get to know us and the company. So I totally agree.
Absolutely. And you'd think that would be the easiest question to answer when you're getting asked that, but it is very tough. It's
Right.
like, what is that exactly is going to make me stand out to Dennis, Kim, and Chris? What can I do to impress them? But it's really essentially you, as you mentioned, compared to other harder behavioral or situational based questions where some individuals feel more comfortable answering those. So perfect. Thank you. And then another question we have, are there any frameworks/languages that would pop out on a resume, for example, for a job as a software developer? So Dennis or Chris
If,
or Kim, any info on that?
if you look at the breadth of software that we develop, it runs everything from assembler, C++, embedded microcontrollers, all the way up through full stack Java, Kotlin, iOS and Android development. Yeah, there's all sorts of it. We have everything. And you just look at the different compute that we've got. It's just about all of them. But I would say those are probably the big ones. C, C++, Android, AOSP, Java. Not so much Fortran and COBOL anymore, but again, I'm aging myself.
I'll just add, I agree with everything that Dennis offered. The other things that sometimes get discounted are even things like MATLAB and Simulink.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily programming language, but skills like that are very important to us from a software perspective as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And seeing those on the recruitment side, for us recruiters going through resumes, we definitely pick up on the softwares that you put in. Even if you put Teams, Zoom, whatever you have utilized, anywhere academically or in your work experience, it's all very relative to what we are looking for here at Ford. Perfect. Okay, great. Well, thank you all so much for joining our sit down with Ford hiring managers. It was an absolute pleasure answering your questions, and I hope you all take some great advice with you going forward after this call from our team. And thank you so much, Chris, Kim, and Dennis. You all have been a wonderful panelist, and you have provided incredible insights, not only to me, but our awesome audience. And it's always great to hear from such skilled team members. Before we let you all go to enjoy the rest of your day, I would like to make mention that we do have another event coming up Tuesday, April 12th. It's called our Ford Tech Talk Presents, a panel with Enterprise Connectivity's Ford College graduates. More information will be coming out for that event soon, so keep your eye out for that, and we hope you can attend. And thank you all again, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, everybody.
You too. Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.